Do you know what 90% of the people do in Ontario when they're not getting qualified for the mortgage? They are approached by the mortgage broker most of the time who are asking for 1 to 3% as their charges to facilitate the mortgage for them and get them qualified for the mortgage that they do not qualify for by falsifying the documents. This is mortgage fraud. Inflating your income just to get qualified for the mortgage is a mortgage fraud, and you are committing a fraud even if you agree to pay that 1 to 3% to the mortgage broker.
It's quite shocking when a mortgage broker comes out and says that 90% of people are willing to commit mortgage fraud. So how much risk is really in this housing market? And right now, the housing market is so obviously imploding. So first of all, let's start off with a couple of losses here that are hugely significant here. These are massive losses. So this first one right here probably was in a bidding war, and we're going to get into underbidding now. Yes, that's becoming a thing in Canada. But first of all, let's go into this overbidding, which was purchased for 1.8 million and just sold for a 520,000 loss. So nearly a 30% loss on this, not adjusted for inflation. So adjusted for inflation, you're talking about over 50-60% easily. And get this was bought in 2021 when lots of realtors and mortgage brokers were saying that the best thing to buy is real estate, and real estate is a great hedge against inflation and the government money printing that was going on back then. Do you remember that? But anyway, moving on, that one was in Caledon, this one is in Hamilton, and this is a 35% loss that was bought by an investor. Things went south for them as their lender, Tylka Credit Union, won a $534,000 judgment against them last month. Now they just sold this rental for a whopping 35% loss. So absolutely crazy when you really think about it, and you have to adjust those numbers for inflation. So now we're going to get onto the fraud situation, and obviously there is rampant fraud in the housing market. I've been covering that since I started this channel way back in 2021. So it's really interesting, but what this shows is just how much due diligence is being done when people are going to get mortgages, because obviously if people can do this, you just have to think what that means for the wider mortgage market. And obviously this could be an isolated incident, but with what you heard at the start of this video from that mortgage broker, what do you think? A BC woman says she's shocked at how someone was able to take out a mortgage and add her name without her permission. I'm mind boggled that you can open up a mortgage in a completely different province and not even be present. And yeah, we're mind boggled too on how that happened. So even more alarming, Leo says CIBC informed her someone had opened a mortgage in Fort Saskatchewan, Alberta, along with a personal line of credit. Leo says her name was also on the mortgage. They, CIBC, ended up telling me that all of the information had changed from the day I came in originally on the 14th back to the exact same person, the exact same address, except this time they took out a $260,000 mortgage under my name, she said. I didn't apply for a mortgage. How did this happen? And think about it. So she had all her details changed. Then she went in, resolved that matter, and then it all happened again. But this time they took out a personal line of credit and a mortgage. And you've just got to ask, this is one of the big banks in Canada. In fact, the most over leveraged bank in Canada is CIBC. And as she points out, she is mind boggled. And we're also mind boggled on this channel on how that was able to happen. And you know that there's insane mortgage fraud going on with income verification, because people are producing income documents that have been doctored. And that's the main problem that the lady was talking about in the start of this video. And that is a big, big problem. And I think it all just kind of shows the type of due diligence that is being done. Now let's talk about underbidding, because I'm sure you're really interested to find out what underbidding is. And it is basically the opposite of overbidding. So if you look at these neighborhoods right here, you can actually see that the median underbid, in this neighborhood, it's nearly $200,000. Now, don't get me wrong, the median price is $3.1 million. So obviously that's why the high amount there. But even on ones where it's 1.1 million, people are putting in a median underbid of $63,000. So that means some people are out there kicking tires and lowballing, and that's that just goes to show what kind of housing market we're in. And as John Flynn points out right here, Canadian real estate had its worst February in history. It was the only February on record that saw negative month-over-month price growth. On top of that, prices have declined 3.3% year over year, not adjusted for inflation, making it the first February on record to have both month-over-month and year-over-year declines. So you can see here, his chart goes all the way back to 2005, and there has not been a year like the one that we're seeing right now in the Canadian real estate bubble. So what do you really think about more of these losses? Do you think they're likely? I think so. And Housing Sigma says the GTA has 1,860 sales so far. The historic average for March looks to be between 8 and 9,000 sales. So that is just showing you how bad it is right now in the Canadian real estate market, particularly in those huge bubbles like Toronto. So you really know, and you've got to ask, well, what's the mainstream narrative around this coming from Korea? And that's what we'll get into now, because I think you're going to find this very interesting. You probably guessed it already because it's becoming the blame for everything right now. So tariffs chill Canada's housing market. So you can see here clearly. I mean, this is so obvious. I just find it funny when they put charts in here that just contradict what they're talking about. It is really funny. So you can see sales actually tanked here in 2021, 2022. And might I add that this happened, right, when interest rates were still under 1%. So that's all it took to tank sales. And that's because the housing market is actually sentiment based. It's not based on interest rates as Korea and realtors and mortgage brokers will let you think. It's actually based largely on sentiment, and it's also based on the economy. If the economy is really bad and people are really pessimistic, then they're not going to be investing in real estate, especially at these crazy prices. And that's exactly what they say here, but they pin it more to the tariffs. So people who are thinking about making the biggest financial decision of their life aren't going to do it in a period of uncertainty like we have right now. Korea's daily data shows obvious signs of the impact of tariff threats made by US President Donald Trump since he was inaugurated. It's so clear. Before January 20th happened, sales were tracking with last year, and then it just fell off a cliff. So obviously the tariffs are going to have an impact, but really when you actually look at this chart, it kind of disproves what they're actually talking about there, because you can see in 2022 they tanked to the exact same levels that we're seeing right now. It's just because of what happened with the tariffs and what they were seeing with the direction of sales that they're now saying it's to do with the tariffs. But really, more broadly speaking, it's actually to do with how bad the economy is and the fact that people are going to be losing so many jobs, and people are worried about losing so many jobs. And we have a government that is incapable with negotiating with the US and instead wants to fly around on a European tour and tell people, let's join the EU. I mean, it's just absolutely crazy what we're seeing happen, but it is literally 2025. So anyway, guys, I want to thank you so much for watching this video. If you've enjoyed this video, I'd highly recommend that you check out this video here. And then if you're looking for a VPN and also want to protect your privacy and help out the channel, please go to expressvpn.com/marketmania to get the best deal. I will see you in the next one. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.